Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Spider-Man, issue number 1. They say that we haven't had no adjective, preceding the title before that. I haven't seen, I don't know. I thought we had a Spider-Man comic book not too long ago. Regardless, be it amazing or sensational or Peter Parker, the whatever, and friendly neighborhood, doesn't matter. Spider-Man. And guess what? We've got this. This is actually really. This is a legendary kind of thing, right? Because Dan Slott is back on Spider-Man, which is wow. And there's going to be a bunch of people like, I don't really like Slott. It only takes a couple minutes of sitting down with you and going, yeah, but did you like this? Yeah, he did that. Okay, yeah, I like that. Did you like this? Because he did that. Oh, yeah, okay, I like that. Yeah. How about this? And suddenly realize, I really do like Slott. The guy can't have been on this thing for, 12 years? 12 years or something like that, right? On Spider-Man. And you're going to tell me that there's almost nothing you like on his stuff? No. Get out of here with that. Take a sidestep on that one, man. All the stuff that this guy's done, forget about it. Plus, he's not responsible for one more day. So, I mean, right there. How do you go from Back in Black to one more day? That just, oh my God. Anyway, also on this is Mark Bagley, who's drawn more issues on Spider-Man. And I thought so, because I was wondering that myself. And then by the time you get to the end of the comic book, Nick Lowe, the editor, the Spidey editor, he explains yeah, nobody's done more issues than Bagley. And I'm like, okay, so I was right. And yes, Bagley's one of the best. We've always got our favorites. And of course, we're always going to give homage to Steve Ditko, right? But, my man's. But, dude, Bagley's art is sublime. And then they also point out inker John Dell. I didn't realize he was award-winning. They say he's award-winning. Cool. But Edgar Delgado, you know what? I praised Edgar Delgado enough that, let it go, right? And VC's Joe Caramagna on letters. I didn't realize I was already going to do who made the book. Bagley and Alejandro Sanchez did the cover. As should be expected, there are a whole lot. I'm talking a slew, an official slew of freaking cover artists on this. Anyway, and of course, the creation of Spider-Man goes to Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. So this was pretty interesting. It's called The End of the Spider-Verse, Part 1, the one and only-ish. I like that. I really dig that. It says that at the end of the comic book. So I wasn't expecting and I wasn't very happy initially about the idea that Slott is going to start his new run on Spider-Man with an event. It's like, dude, no, there's no need for that. Can we just have Spider-Man being Spider-Man? Is there, no, we can't have that anymore. This is why we can't have nice things. Everybody got to do a freaking event. But fortunately, I did read through the whole entire book. I got to the end. I did read the editor's note on here and whatnot. And I'm actually really glad I did because it explained a lot. And I am glad that it was at the end of the book also. If you didn't finish the book, you didn't finish the book. It's all right. Maybe consider going back and checking the book out because apparently there's a big deal for this. And I'm just going to let you guys read it, on your own. That's right. Buy the comic book. It is worth it to buy the comic book. It is genuinely worth it to buy this. But there were some Spider-Verse events that weren't quite finished. You guys know Gaia. She used to be the mother of Thor. And then freaking, what's that guy's name? You know what? I don't want to insult the guy. But, without naming him. Who the hell did that? Is doing the current Avengers run. Damn it, it must have been like trauma. Sometimes you block out trauma, right? I think I'm having like a PTSD moment right now or something like that. Freaking Thor is now no longer the son of Gaia. Now it's the son of the Phoenix, which is... No, that's no good. Why would you do something like that? That's ridiculous. Nope, sorry. I'm going to stop reading comic books. I'm going to stop reading the Thor comic books so that that's not canon for me anymore, right? You could say something, I'm like, nope, I never read that. I don't know what you're talking about. But here, Shathra, one of the two children of Gaia. And of course, Gaia, Mother Earth, literally has several but in this particular case, Shathra, while not being the spider totem goddess, she is the goddess of the hive, basically. So there's Spider-wasps. That's the thing that she does. And I recognized her. And I'm like, oh, really? We're going there? Is he going to do this? One of these things where it's like it's a backup villain or something? Because that would be, like the big bad behind the scenes, like Nick Spencer did with wow, I can't remember the name of the freaking thing. You know, the big hobgoblin with teeth looking thing. It was actually Norman Osborn or Norman's son, Harry. Anyway, God, so many of these comic books, they just didn't do it for me. I looked at this and I genuinely thought to myself, I'm not going to read this. I'm not going to read this. Let me just read through the beginning of it and see if it's going to be any good. And then I'm reading and I'm like, there's some silly stuff in here, but that's Slott, right? But there's also really good stuff in here, which coincidentally is also Slott. So I'm reading this and I actually enjoyed it. Look, there were some life-threatening moments in here. Case in point, dun dun dun, Morlun shows up. Yes, it's pronounced Morlun. And right away, as soon as you see him, I looked, I was like, Spidey's screwed. And he's all by himself like he's screwed. And fortunately, Peter himself thought to himself, oh, I'm screwed, all right, or whatever he says. This is something effectively leading up to I'm screwed, because he is. He's screwed. It's Morlun. Dude, you're dead. The problem is he had the perfect dialogue to go against the other dialogue. His internal thoughts were, oh crap, my life is on the line. Any other villain I go up against is whatever. But when I'm going against the Inheritors, specifically Morlun, it is life or death. He wants to kill me. Not just kill me, eat me. I'm pretty much paraphrasing every single thing the Spider said, and I'm like, this is how you build up the intensity. Because in the beginning, Spider-Man actually goes and says at one point to one of the bad guys, one of the thugs who tries to stop him, he's like, oh no, it's Spider-Man. He's like, actually, it's Spider-Man. There's a hyphen in between. You said that a little bit fast, like it's a compound word. No, it's a hyphenated compound word. So just, and yes, it is, and it's true, and that's just the way that Stanley made it, so frickin' deal with it, all right, peeps? And that's always been a Dan Slott joke, and I love that he incorporated into this, because again, that you know what? Dan didn't even have to freaking sign the book. He could have just had that in there. I would have known right away. Dan Slott wrote this. From the very beginning, I was like, Dan Slott wrote this comic book. Forget about it. And if I would have went the exact opposite way and said, I don't really care about the comma, you'd have known that Gail Simone did something like that, because that's just the way that she thinks. I love that I've read so many of the works of some of these incredible writers that I know how they speak. I know who wrote the book just based on how the book is reading. Just like a lot of us can look at a comic book and tell who the artist was because we know this person's art. You can do it with the writing also, and a lot of you, I'm sure, can do that as well. So all of this was perfect because you had humor, and then he's like, oh my God, it's life or death. And I'm like, yes, it actually is. And we can tell that Morlun is not actually there to kill Spider-Man this time. That he's actually there to help or give some kind of, minor, whatever. But he's there to help in some fashion or another. He's not there to fight. But Peter right away, panic sets in. And he goes into, oh crap, The problem is, after Peter says all this stuff to himself, he right away starts cracking jokes. And not even out loud, he starts doing them in his head also. And it's like, this is where you kind of start losing me, right? You didn't lose me completely, but this is where I start stepping back and saying, you're taking me out of the comic book now. Because I get it. Peter cracks jokes under pressure. I talk under pressure, right? I just did today. That's why I'm kind of disheveled right now. I was in jiu-jitsu today and kind of got my butt handed to me. I went against one of the coaches, and I outweigh him by 100 pounds. But that's not what jiu-jitsu is about. It's not about the bigger guy who's going to beat you. Jiu-jitsu is about, let's give the little guy a chance. And this guy's got more chance against me. And every time I got an upper hand on him, he just increased his own level. So I had to remind myself, this guy's just doing baby steps with me, because he could freaking tie me up if he wanted to and choke me out. What do you call it? But anyway, no, against the other guys, I did pretty damn good. But yeah, I started talking out loud as I'm doing it, and not necessarily cracking jokes, but even then, even if I did, it's like, this is jiu-jitsu. That two tap anywhere. Don't tap somebody on the ass, but if you tap somebody's ass, that means something different. But just, you do a quick tap out, and it's like, okay, we're good. You got me. Stop. You know what I'm saying? Not feeling comfortable, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel safe right here. It's cool. And this is one of the reasons why we can spar all the time, because, and most martial arts don't get to spar. And most martial arts don't get to go full go. And when you think about it, even if you've been in the traditional martial arts for a long time, question, how many days a week do you spar? Because I spar every single time I go to class. every single time. When I was going 6 days a week, now I'm only going like 3 days a week. When I was going 6 days a week, I was sparring 6 days a week. The last 20 minutes of the class and whatever you do after the class is over, because the mats are always open, it's full go. So we spar all the time. And one of the main reasons why we can do that is because we know if it starts to get too intense, or if it's just ow, you got me in a good one, a quick tap out, done. Right? It's a really great, I can't breathe anymore. I can feel you blocked off my carotid arteries. I'm going to pass out momentarily, right? It's one of those or you got my ankle and you're going to break my ankle or snap the ligaments or something. You can just tap out and it allows you to full go, It really gets you ready in case something stupid happens. Punch somebody if you got it, but jiu-jitsu got your back in case you fall on your back. Anyway, but that's the thing, though. Even though I talk out loud and I'm talking to my coach. I'm actually talking to him as I'm going through it. He's like, I'm not going to give away my game, but you're giving away your game. I was like, I'm not actually competing. You're not my adversary in this. You're my coach. So I'm just saying these things so that at some point you can be like, okay, remember when you said such and such? Here's what you did wrong. And boom, I'm just looking to, to advance. Spider-Man's not doing that. Spider-Man is doing this, and he's just like, I'm going to crack a joke about your mama or something like that. And unfortunately, Spider-Man doesn't do mama jokes. That would be cool. Why no mama jokes? I don't get it. Anyway, in this particular regard, though, he's cracking the jokes. And it's like, I don't think jokes are fitting in this particular case. Spider-Man can't always be jokes, right? Look, when, Back in Black happened, let's go back to Straczynski. When Back in Black was going on, did you hear a single joke being cracked? The Kingpin tried to crack a few, right? That didn't end very well for him. And on average, I would say 90+% of us will all acknowledge Spider-Man Back in Black was one of the greatest Spider-Man stories ever. If that's not your number one, I can almost promise you it's your number two. And if it's not even in your top 5, I know you haven't read it. And there are very few exceptions. And those exceptions are so few that they actually prove the rule undeniably, demonstrably. So that's the thing about it. You have to have the fun, ever-loving Spider-Man, whatever, but he's got to have a serious side also. And when he says, this is life or death, I don't want to hear a single damn joke. And if I do hear a joke, I want there to be an immediate response, an immediate reason why he stops mid-joke. But that didn't happen. Instead, he's making the jokes, he's da-da-da-da-da, and then he's just like, he stops, and I think he says something again to the effect of, I'm screwed, because he just lost all of his energy. I don't really see Spider-Man doing that either. Look, I've seen a video, I think I saw it on Rogan one time, but wherever I saw it, it was something he was talking about jiu-jitsu, which is why I was looking at it. And he showed this one really overweight, this guy was just, you want to talk about a muffin top, this, it wasn't a cop, I don't think. I think it was a regular guard who was doing a prison transfer for this one guy who's in a wheelchair. He reaches over to help the guy up or whatever, and the guy lunges forward and grabs the guy's sidearm and starts trying to, shoot him. And he's trying to fight him, but he doesn't know how to fight. And at the end of the day, he's freaking fat. He is a ridiculously obese guy who just eats turkeys whole. And I said, yes, the plurality of turkeys was intended. Just, you'd think he'd pull out the bone like in a cartoon. This ain't no cartoon. He's just deep-throating these turkeys. Like, this was bad, man. This was bad. I think the guy got cut and gravy poured out or something like that. Dude. And like, it wasn't even 30 seconds. It might have only been 20 seconds, but it was maximum 30 seconds later. He's just on the ground and he puts his hand up and the guy's got his pistol. He's got full control of the pistol and he points it at the guy. And fortunately, the other guard came in and tackled the guy and put him down. And this guy was super skinny, super old. The attacker, the assailant. I'm just like, dude, what the frick? And the guy's just laying there and he puts his hand up and you could tell he's just, you are so out of shape that you lost your wind. You lost your wind in under 30 seconds. A regular kid or somebody Peter Parker's age could go full go for a minute on adrenaline before all of a sudden it's like, oh, shoot, right? This was only like 3 panels. So when you're talking about life or death, you are not still on your feet. And that's the thing. That's the thing. And I don't blame Dan Slott. And Dan Slott needs to lose some weight. And if this gets back to Dan, I love you to death, and I want you to lose weight so that you're around a lot longer so you can continue writing these amazing Spider-Man, or just regular Spider-Man, all of these amazing Spider-Man stories and all the other amazing stories that you do. I want you around, brother. I want you around. And heavy like you are, you're not going to be around for much longer, all right? Hold off on the second helpings. Maybe leave off the pie. I'm being a bit of a jerk right now, but seriously, love you to death, but take the death out of it. All right, let's just do that. Let's keep you away from a freaking heart attack, okay? But when you're heavy like that, that's when you're just and you can't do anything. Nah, dude, nah. Spider-Man is in shape, all right? Spider-Man is in shape, and Spider-Man gets into fights. Dan Slott, I don't think, gets into fights, and that's the point I was getting into about him being heavy. Dan Slott clearly does not get into actual fist fights. Because if he did, if he's ever been in a real, like I'm talking a scrap, where there's like blood. Some of you guys have gotten into fights where you're looking and you're like, is this my blood or his? Some of you have been in those fights. You guys are the ones I'm targeting right now. You're the ones who understand. You're the ones who know this beyond the shadow of a doubt. Nobody runs out of breath while still standing up. Unless it's a boxing match, in which case, because there are all these rules in place where you're not allowed to hit below the belt, you're not allowed to, whatever. But in a real fight, the knockdown, drag out, nobody runs out of breath. No, so much that you can't raise your hands anymore when you're still standing. That doesn't happen. It's always like you can barely stand anymore. Your knees are wobbling or whatever. You're not just standing there and, oh crap. So that kind of took me out of it also. Look, I get it. I'm not going to sit here and bash Slott for this, but it's one of those things where it's like, dude, talk to somebody. In some occasions, talk to somebody. Anybody who's read a single Drizzt Do'Urden book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Our Bob Salvatore, R.A. Salvatore, that dude is a boxer. He's been in boxing for a long time. And I'm not talking about ninja chop stuff or dual-wielding scimitars or a long sword and a knife that he switches sometimes when he's got to block more, when he goes on the defense. I'm not even talking about those. I'm talking about straight up, straight out. This guy has been in plenty of fights, whether it's sparring or real fights. And that's why his fight scenes feel so damned real. So real. When somebody's out of breath, you know they've earned being out of breath. When somebody can't go on anymore, you feel like you can't go on anymore either. When you know how to fight, you can write fighting. If you don't know how to fight, you write this stuff. And look, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who've never been in a real fight in their entire life who read this just fine and didn't have a problem with it. This book was that fight scene at the very least was 100% written for you. And I'm not here to bash you, especially if you're a female. I'm not here to bash you for not getting into a fight. It'd be great. Go your whole life without a single fight, a single confrontation that comes in, nothing more than just a little shove or something like that. That would be amazing, right? Some of us didn't grow up in those good neighborhoods. That being said, the fight choreography in this could have been a whole lot better, especially when you have this many people around you. There was a moment in here, I'm not going to go into it because I'm not here to spoil the whole entire book for you guys. There was a scene in here where somebody shows up and it was like, oh shoot, we're going to get some so-and-so love, which all of us want to give love to so-and-so. All right. You'll know when you see this individual, you'll be like, yes, right? And so, are more of you going to come? No, I don't think so. And then all of a sudden the sword comes out and it's like, that's new. And then there's the moment. See, you don't have to be a great fighter to have those. I don't think I can replicate that sound. I'm not even going to try. Don't meme that. If you have any respect for me whatsoever, don't meme that. But that little thing, yeah, that was wow, that was a moment. And I'm like, that's not cool. And then you realize what's going on, and suddenly you realize what's up. This is a story that apparently needs to be finished. I'm okay with it because I have heard people complain that it hasn't been finished. I'm just like, yeah, eventually it'll be finished, or somebody else will finish it, and hopefully they do a good job on it. Whatever. It is what it is, right? But for now, I read this, and it is modern day, right? And it was interesting. If I did have anything to say, they try to bring outside humor into Peter getting destroyed because the suit was getting wrecked, and Norman Osborn is in his ear, and he's like, what are you doing to my suit? He's like, the suit is what you're worried about, and that didn't help either. That didn't help either. Because look, bro, 6 years in the U.S. Army infantry. I've kicked in plenty of doors. All right. I've wielded my fair share of weapons. I've sent more than my fair share of ammo downrange. All right. I've put in my time, and I can tell you, matter of fact, anybody who's in a situation like Peter is in does not make jokes when you hear somebody who could possibly give you help. At some point, you're like, I need backup, if not a flat out help. There is no when you know that you're in the not even you're about to be wrecked. No, you're in the process of that wreckage. There are 0 people, precisely 0 people on the face of this planet, and anybody who's up in the ISS, 0 people who don't right away go, help. I need backup. Here are my coordinates, something. Every single person says help at some point. Yours truly included. Spider-Man is not cracking jokes when he's in the process of being murdered and about to be eaten afterwards, probably while he's still alive. No, that doesn't happen. So it's a back and forth. It's a love and what the F is this for this comic book, but it's mostly love. And I know that I'm going to have to put some of this stuff aside because Dan gets into his weird stuff every so often, and it can be real, and it's usually really exciting. But unfortunately for me, I'm going to look at fight choreography, and when I see something and like the emotion, the proper emotion just isn't there, I know being afraid. I know panic. I know what that feels like, and it's not a comfortable feeling, but it's a real feeling. It's a genuinely real feeling. And be honest, name me a character that's more realistic than Spider-Man. I get it, the powers. I get it, the whole, the spider sense and the webs and the Batman would technically be more real. Yeah, the guy who goes on like 2 hours of sleep every day and come on, learned every single martial art in the world and mastered every single one of them. And he's how old exactly? Sure. But either way, as far as emotions and talking to people and his relationships and not hiring a bunch of or bringing a bunch of kids to come in and wear brightly colored clothes and run with him, and he doesn't have child social services making their own task force to go after him, that's what would happen. Why doesn't somebody write that Batman story? Child social services makes their own task force, right? And then starts doing their own experimental super soldier program so they can send people to go after Batman to get him for child endangerment. Because that's exactly, look, come on, right? Look, see, the story writes itself. You know what I'm saying? DC, give me a call. I'll probably hang up on you because I don't like your hiring and pay methods, but it is what it is. Feel free. It's out there. It's a story. What do you call it? This, when I see, when I see Spider-Man, whenever I read it, whenever I'm going to pick up when I see it on the shelves and I'm about to pick up a Spider-Man comic book, the first thing that goes in my mind is this comic book is going to make me feel like he's a real human being who has real relationships, has dealt with real trauma, has dealt with real grief, has dealt with real positive emotions, has dealt with life. This dude's been kicked in the balls and they spit on the back of his neck as he was going down. And then there are other times that he's had bro hugs and woman hugs and kissed and loved and he's experienced life, and he is the realest character out there. sans powers, the realest character out there. So I expect to see some sort of reality when I see Peter Parker, right? I expect to see fear, genuine terror. I expect to hear it in his voice. I expect there to be little, choke moments in there where he can't talk anymore. I'm banging against the desk. Sorry for the camera shake. I expect to see all that stuff when I'm looking at a Spider-Man comic book. It is what it is. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for me. Again, I did really, really enjoy the hell out of this comic book. I'd like to see more actual, my interpretation of Spider-Man, I get. Maybe that's just what it is. But I would like to see more historical Spider-Man in this, but the story looks like it's going to be fun. It's Dan Slott. It could go wrong, but chances are in his favor of it being good. So, I mean, there's that. And let's be realistic. I'm sorry, a lot of us have fallen off the X-Men. So I saw X-Men Red. I was like, oh, I can't wait to read it. And I looked down, and they right away did the Judgment of Kiss My Ass Eternals stuff on there. I'm like, yeah, X-Men and Avengers can't save the Eternals. Sorry. I know they could be a good backup character. No, I think that they could be not even a backup character. I think that they could be a good over there character, and we hear about them more than anything else, and you're dealing with the repercussions of them. Jason Aaron, that's the evil bastard's name. I thought one of the best things he ever did was kill the Eternals. The thing that's never supposed to happen. Unfortunately, brought them back, and he basically made them a very shitty version of the New Gods, and then basically made it like Ragnarok in the Thor Ragnarok cycle and the Asgardians Ragnarok. They all die, but they all come back also. So Ragnarok means nothing for the most part. It can be made to mean something, but then there's also this issue here with why are you making the Eternals like other things? They are not like any other thing. The whole point of the Eternals is that they are unlike anything ever in the history of forever. So there's that. There's a reason why I looked at X-Men Red and I looked away because I saw the title. Anyway, my point was that in a world of not very many good comic books nowadays, this is a breath of fresh air, or a fresh of breath air, depending on, how much you're going to stumble over it. Check this book out. Definitely consider checking this book. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Fine. I gave you a bad take on it, but I enjoyed this comic book, and I think that there's a lot of positive to be said about it. I am looking forward to seeing this, and I hope that Slott is not just finishing this up so that he can finish it up. I hope he's actually going to stay doing Spider-Man. The guy's just got, I can only imagine he's got a million stories to tell. So it is what it is. And I really didn't like his Fantastic Four. Everybody's got their strengths, man. Everybody's got their strengths. Show me a Canadian who could do a good Puck story. I rest my case. I'll talk to you guys later. Love and peace, and be good to yourselves and each other and all that stuff. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Like the video and watch an ad. That's what I usually say. Class dismissed.